I was under the impression that the D in TED meant death, and I'm here to talk to you about death. So I want you to take a deep breath and relax and ground yourself. It seems that the American culture is death-denying. We want to believe that death is something that will not happen to us or to anyone we love. We spend enormous amounts of energy picking out our next television, microwave, shoes on the computer, and cell phones, and dreaming about our future vacations, but we rarely plan for the trip that each of us will take. Death is the ultimate life experience. It seems that death has been left to science and technology, and we have lost the human and spiritual aspects. Most of us don't want to talk about or think about our own death, especially when it's imminent. For example, hospice care is available for 6 months before the end of life. The average person is enrolled for only 1 week. When we drop our fears and accept death, we are offered the chance to let go, make amends, say goodbye, and enjoy the last days of our lives. By being prepared and informed of our options, we can move into this end-of-life transition with compassion, patience, and awareness. Tonight, you will hear how I got involved in death care, what it is that we do. I am not the only one who is a death midwife. There are other people in this room. How it could impact you, and I'm going to encourage you to think about your own death. The American funeral industry offers a service that is extremely helpful. Although the average cost of a conventional burial and funeral can run between $10,000 to $20,000, to most of us, that's a large financial impact. And most of us are unaware that we have alternative choices. One of those is embalming. Many are under the impression that embalming is a legal requirement. It is not. The next piece of information is from Mark Harris's book, Grave Matters. For every body that is embalmed, approximately 120 gallons of untreated funeral waste is sent directly down our drain to the municipal water system. In addition to the water waste, the fluid holds a mix of body fluids, liberated internal organs, and the carcinogenic chemicals in the embalming solution. A typical 10-acre swatch of cemetery ground contains enough wood to construct 40 houses. This is mostly tropical woods and hardwoods. Enough embalming fluid to fill a backyard swimming pool. Now remember, this is a human carcinogen. And I'll let you read the rest. This is how my path began. About 11 years ago, I was given a very small kitten. On the evening of his arrival to my home, he became very ill, so I took him to the vet where I was told that he would die. His name was Boo-Too. That's similar to that. I was told he would die, so I brought him home. My spiritual teacher, Nancy Spence, had asked me not long before this to learn how to tend bodies at death so that I could be of support to our spiritual community. So I decided to apply these teachings with Boo-Too. I held him in my lap and I talked to him and sat with him as he went through these last phases of life. It seemed like a long transition because I had never witnessed a death. 11 hours after he came into my life, he took his last breath. I bathed his small body and placed him on a pillow inside my spare bedroom, and I opened the window to keep him cool. And then I began my 3-day vigil. On the first day, his body stiffened with rigor mortis and then softened. On the second day, I could tell that his essence was beginning to leave, and I also felt like he needed to be a little cooler. So I took his little body on the pillow, and I took him into my kitchen, and I had pulled out the largest Tupperware I could find, and I put him in the Tupperware, put the lid on it, and I put him in the refrigerator. Now, I was having a guest come to stay with me that night. So I thought she's probably going to pick up the phone and call a psychiatrist. So I went to my refrigerator, and I put all my food all around Butu's little coffin. And the next day, I could tell there was no longer any Butu essence left. So I took him to my teacher's house, and we buried him in her backyard. My experience then moved from pets to people and their families. Ruby was dying of cancer, and her daughter Ellen asked me to help with her after-death care. After she died, we bathed and dressed Ruby, and based upon her wishes, we set out her Bible for her loved ones to read to her, and we placed flowers around the room. That evening, Ruby was taken to Duke Medical School for Alzheimer's research. Nancy's request, the gift of Butu's life and his death, and Ruby's willingness to participate in my training were the beginning of an amazing journey that has brought me here tonight. There are many ways to be of service when someone is dying. This is Stan. His last request was to have a haircut. He told his daughter, Margie, that if I go like this, I might scare her. His wife had died earlier, and he was excited to see her again. Stan's family tended him during his long illness at home, and one of their final acts of love was to bathe his frail body, dress him in his favorite suit and his wingtip shoes. This is Tony's 85th birthday. She had plenty of time to say goodbye to her loved ones and friends. She told her friends that she was going to have a Buddha funeral. You can see that Tony was Catholic. Home funerals are not just for Buddhists, it's simply another option for after-death care. Her friends and family were able to visit her in her own home for 3 days after her death. This is little Edie. When Edie was 13 months old, her family was told that she would likely live not more than 5 to 10 years. When she was 9 years old, she died peacefully in her father's arms. Her parents, Tom and Laura, called and asked if I could help. I sat with Laura as she bathed Edie, as she had done for the last 9 years. We arranged her room to accept visitors by placing a small table and a rocking chair beside her bed and removing the medical equipment that had kept her alive. Edie's nurse's aide and her mother picked out her favorite clothes that would be her last outfit. And she was laid to rest in her peaceful little room on the quilt that her friends had made for her. We tend to imagine, especially after seeing so many scenes of death on TV, that the transition after death is drastic. To the contrary, it's a subtle process. The changes in the physical body happen gradually. The benefit of this transition time to the loved ones is that they have a sense of the spirit or soul leaving, and the understanding that their loved one is no longer in the form left behind. The next night, I went to a gathering at their home where there were 50 to 60 people there and countless children. There was a cardboard cremation container on the family dining room table, and children and adults were writing love notes on the box and placing treasures inside. Many friends of all ages were guided to Edie's room by her brother and sister, Liza and Jack. They did this to say goodbye, and they did it without a sense of fear. It seemed a normal gesture when saying goodbye to a beloved sister and friend. It also made me realize how much we project this sense of fear onto our children about death, and then the imagined fear that we will experience when presented with the body of our loved one. Over the weekend, Jack and Liza would climb into bed with Edie and place their hands on her chest and wait for signs of life. Neither was able to feel the chest move with heartbeat or with breathing. They could see that Edie was changing, that her skin was becoming cool to the touch and pale. Tom told me later that at one point, Liza put her head on Edie's chest and, not hearing a heartbeat, had said, "Yep, deader than a doornail." She had heard this and she thought it would be a funny time to use it. On the third day, Edie was on Laura's lap as Tom drove us to the crematorium. We cut Edie's hair to donate to Lots of Love, a service that makes wigs for children undergoing chemotherapy. She was placed in the box her loved ones had decorated, and I stayed with her as she was taken away for cremation. Tom and Laura later told me that some of the most precious moments were when they awoke in the middle of the night and they could go in Edie's room and be with her. Grief doesn't know visiting hours. It arises and subsides with its own timetable. I'm at a loss here. There we go. We come up with all kinds of reasons not to think about death, but mostly we ignore it. The trouble is, we think we have time. Sometimes we know when death is approaching, as with the stories I just told you, and sometimes we're surprised by death. When death comes suddenly, it's even more precious to spend time with our loved one. And I'll tell you about Maida. This is Maida. She was 20 when she died in a car accident. That was 3 years ago. She was born at home, and it was important for her family to bring her home, to tend her with their own hands, and to spend time with her after her death. There were over 400 people at her memorial service. Zai also died suddenly just this past July in a motorcycle accident. This is his mother and sister decorating the box that he would be cremated in. Sometimes I work with people who have a fear of death, and particularly fear of dead bodies. When the time came to assist, though, with the loved one's home funeral, they wanted to help, and they were able to find the strength to do this. In these times, we find the willingness that we didn't know we had. Zai's family and friends participated in his home funeral and found joy and laughter amidst their grief as they supported each other. They said their intimate goodbyes as he was taken from home to the crematorium. Here are some things you may not be aware of. It is legal to transport your loved one in your own vehicle after their death. And I encourage you to visit our website and read Aunt Fran's story. Dawn talks about transporting her mother from the Ryson City area to Asheville Crematorium in the back of her Prius. And Aunt Fran was in a cardboard cremation container like you just saw. It's a great story. In Buncombe County, North Carolina, and outside Asheville city limits, it is legal to bury your loved one on your own land as long as you have obtained the death certificate, and the grave is 500 feet from a water source. If earth burial is to be your final resting place, you could consider a more eco-friendly option to conventional cemeteries. Green cemeteries and conservation burial grounds are emerging in this country and in this area. This photo and the one before and the next were taken at Ramsey Creek Memorial Preserve in Westminster, South Carolina. This family and friends are participating in lowering the casket into the grave, and they will also participate in covering it with earth. In these burial grounds, embalming is not allowed. The body is buried in a biodegradable casket or shroud and is buried 3 feet deep instead of 6 feet deep so that our nutrients and elements can benefit and nourish the earth. A lot of us here probably like to grow vegetables and plants. organically. We wouldn't dream of putting chemicals around these new seedlings. Let's consider planting our loved ones the same way. Lee, Zai's mother, recently sent me this note. It was for us, our family, friends, and community, the answer, home funerals. I will, to the end of time, so completely cherish every moment that I had with Zai in his room. I needed to say things, needed closure, needed time to just be with his physical self. I needed that time to adjust. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share something that I believe can take the mystery and fear out of death and restore it to being a natural part of a life well lived. This is the idea that I thought worth sharing, and I wish you all a long and happy life, but please don't forget to think about your death.